it's Kwana, and I'm back again. This time I am coming to you with a review of Everything by Nicola Yoon. So let's dig in. And just to give you a little history of the book and why my copy looks so rough, I actually got this about 2 years ago at a Christmas book swap that my English department did. And it was one of those like dirty Santa kind of things where everybody brings a book and you can grab a book off the table based off of the wrapper or the bag, and then you can get it and then you can steal someone else's book. And eventually this baby got around to me and came home with me and then proceeded to sit on my shelf. And then when I didn't know anything about it at the time, but it looked really pretty. And then when I found out that it was going to be turned into a YA movie-ish, a movie, that's YA, I took it to school and was like, oh, I'll put it on my school bookshelf and I'll read it sometime during independent reading, or one of the kids will read it. And then it kind of sat on my shelf that was closest to me, that kind of like the kids would have to come up and actually look for it, to ask for it. Then that never happened. And then like the whole idea of like sustained silent reading, I picked up a different book and was reading that, and then it just kind of fell through. So hence this never got read. And so then I started reading it during exam week, like the last day of school basically, and read it through over the next like week and a half. It took me like a week and a half because I was doing summer school training, and this is getting long. So yeah, so that's it looks rough. It's been a while, but finally read it. And you think of this format, so I'll kind of give you my brief take, quick little synopsis, then my more brief in-depth summary, and then my quick review. It'll be my teacher review of whether or not I would use it in the classroom, whether I would recommend it to a kid, my personal review based on my own personal taste, and then I will go into more in-depth. And from that point, if you have not read it, you can stop the video and come back later and feel free to talk about it with me. Basically, 3-line review. A girl in a bubble experiences love for the first time. And for those of you older folks, you might recall John Travolta did a movie back in like the late 70s. Probably, I don't know if it was pre-Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Fever, or if it was post, but called A Boy in a Plastic Bubble, and that's what this made me think about. So yeah, there's that. So Everything is a novel by, and I'm sorry, I'm like reading on my phone, guys, so I don't forget anything. So if this video looks jacked up, it's video number 1. I feel like it's allowed to be jacked up, right? Okay. So anyhow, Everything is a novel by Nicola Yoon, and I think this is her first novel. I know she also wrote The Sun Is Also a Star, which also just got turned into a movie featuring Yara Shahidi. And so I haven't read that yet, and I'm not sure if I will based off of this. I did download the Kindle sample, so we'll see how that goes. But it's about an 18-year-old girl named Maddie Whittier who has like an autoimmune disease that requires her to stay in her house under intense air filtration, decontamination. So she has like no exposure with the outside world. She can only eat toast or very bland things, and she basically has like just like this boring humdrum existence where she reads books, she listens to music, I guess, but she never really talks about the music she listens to in depth, and that kind of was sad. Although I think that there might have been like a playlist somewhere. Maybe that's the other book. Anyway, and all of everything changes when this boy moves in next door named Ollie. And of course, she falls madly in love with Ollie. This is whole Romeo and Juliet, they can't be together, and thing. And Ollie moves next door. So just like a Taylor Swift video, they start communicating through like notes on the window until they remember, ooh, technology is a thing that exists in our universe. Let's use it. So then they email each other, which I don't know if teenagers use email, because the emails that they send me are a hot mess. Kids, please learn how to craft an email. Just saying. Then they instant message each other, which I guess is the equivalency of sliding in someone's DMs. And they fall madly in love with each other, and Maddie is willing to risk it all for Ollie. All right, so quick review. My teacher review, I'm going to use like a 5-star rating, and I would like to say each star has a metric, and maybe I'll sit down and really craft one, but from now I'm just going to kind of go with my gut of like having been a teacher for 12 years and having been a reader for the last 30 years. And I'm going to give it, for a teacher review, 4 out of 5 stars. The pacing of the book was really good. The chapters are like, there's some that are a little longer, but they're for the most part super short. They're little snippets that just are giving like diagrams and graphics and her little doodles, which are really, really cute. And I think for a student, the pacing works really, really well. I would imagine this will be a book that, just like me, any teenager, if they were reading it and they had at least 20 minutes of sustained silent reading a day, they could knock this book out in 2 weeks. So in that regards, it's a really good book. The development of the characters wasn't bad. There were nice little quirky touches here and there that allowed us to see into the characters. It's a really short cast. It's only Maddie, her mom, and her nurse Carla, and then Ollie, his sister, his mom, and his dad, and then Ollie's friend that they meet. There's also a teacher who comes by, and then a doctor briefly. But the cast is really, really short, so there's not a lot of people to remember with this book. So it allows her to dig more into the character development of Maddie and Ollie. And there are characters I definitely would have liked to have seen more interactions with, especially we don't get to, I don't feel like we get a real sense of her mom. Her mom was really flat. Carla was much more of a dynamic character, and I guess there's reasons for that when we get to the spoilery part of the book, but that part I didn't like, that the mom was so flat. Why 4 out of 5 and why not 5? Because there are definitely some holes in the ending, guys. And I don't mean like just, oh, we don't really know what happens and we wish the story would have continued type holes. I mean like holes that go against like Maddie's character development and like who she says she is now versus the reality of what her actions suggest her to be. And it's not like the sense of like that there's a it's like a real discrepancy in like what the narration wants us to believe about Maddie and what Maddie wants to believe about Maddie and what's actually there on the page. So in that regard, I'd have to like pull my girls or my boys to the side and say, hey, listen, after you read this, let's talk about it. Let's take a little moment and just chat, and so you don't walk away thinking the wrong things. Personal review, 3 out of 5. It was an engaging, a little fun read, a lighthearted read, definitely like on the beach, relaxing, kind of chill, don't have to think much about it kind of read. So for that entertainment value wise, it was great. But I am 37, so those plot holes and maturity kicks in, and so those things were like, definitely this is one of those books that were some YA books you don't feel out of place. Like I never felt out of place reading The Hunger Games or felt like it was a disconnect. I could feel the disconnect here. So there's that. Would I teach this? Definitely in a creative writing course or setting, I would definitely teach this or use this. Maybe a brief lesson on text structure and the way authors can manipulate text so that it's not just the standard boring page after page after page after page. Small snippets here and there that I could use for character development as like an excerpt to see what the students can glean from the character development based off of what the conversation, the dialogue is here, or based off of the description here. So on that regard, yes, I would use those snippets. Never though, I would not teach this whole text. This is not one of those books that I'm like, oh, even for like a low level reading class, I wouldn't use this book. But definitely on the independent reading pile, like if a kid said, hey, I want to read this for, independent reading, sure, yeah, no problem. So there's that. So now I'm going to dive in deeper, and if you have not read the book and you want to stop here, read, and come back, please remember this moment. Okay, so the things that I enjoyed the aspect of like the reversal of the girl stalking the boy, which is not something that happens a lot in literature, so I enjoyed that. It gave me very much like the Rear Window type tease. If you guys have seen Rear Window, and there's at least 2 versions of it that I can think of, but the classic Alfred Hitchcock movie, and then they did kind of a play on it with Shia LaBeouf called Disturbia. yeah, it kind of gave me that without like the killer part of it. Um, so those are the things I loved. And the art and the text, I liked that. That was really, really nice. Like the little breakups with like the illustrations and stuff. That stuff was fun. The things that I hated. So in the back of the book, before you get to the excerpt from "The Sun is Also a Star," there is kind of a Q&A. Oh, there is a playlist. I wasn't wrong. There was a playlist here. There's a Q&A with the author, and I know it's her attempt to answer some questions that readers may have had, but one of the things that really bothered me was just the lack of attention to Maddie's ethnicity. Maddie is biracial or interracial, depending on which term you prefer. She is one part Chinese. I do not want to get that wrong. Chinese or Korean, but I feel like she's Chinese. Here we go. Okay, I feel like she's Chinese, but she could be Korean. She's definitely Asian. I know it said it somewhere in the book. And then her father was African American or Black American, depending on your preference. They changed that in the movie, so that's the difference from the movie. The movie, her mother was African American or Black American, and the father was white. I don't think she's supposed to be Asian because Amanda Listenberg's not Asian. That being the case, okay, I digress. As a teacher, that really bothered me that there wasn't a lot of attention paid to that, even little nuances here and there with like touches around the home, nods of things that her mother would have talked about growing, about how she grew up in maybe a more traditional household. And she says, and I quote, Maddie's heritage isn't the focus of the book, but it isn't glossed over either. What was your intention to write a diverse character this way? And she said, definitely. I wrote this book for my daughter, who is a mix of me, Jamaican American, which is different from being Black American a little bit. And I know that just because my father is West Indian. So it's slightly different. And my husband, who's Korean American, so Korean, and her heritage is part of who she is, but it's not the entirety of who she is. And I get that. I get the idea as an author of not wanting to box a character in so that they become the token. But let's be honest, in terms of modern day literature, she's writing a character that is one of the first that I've certainly seen who is Asian and Black, Asian and Black, racially. And that's very rare. And so I would have liked to have seen more nuances there with that, or even ways in which perhaps Maddie's mom had tried to preserve her father's legacy, even in their upbringing. We don't ever really hear much about other family members coming in. And so that would have been just nice little touches to help us get to know Maddie. Because while our ethnicity is not the entirety of who we are, it certainly is a piece of the pie. And so I would have liked to have seen that. So that was something that, and being that I teach World Lit, had there been more of that there, then this could have been maybe a book that I used at some point in time. And so there's that. So questions I have. There is a reference to a kid who might have been living next door when Maddie was 8. And we get a brief diary entry about how witnessing the move impacted her, but it suggested that this moment was really brief, but the amount of concern that Carla and her mom show make it seem like a really big deal. And I would have liked to have found out, like, did she have a complete meltdown? Did they have to like restrain her? Because it's such a brief blip, like what she remembers, and I don't even know if I can find it. I tried to remember to mark it, but it was such a brief blip of like a diary entry from her 8-year-old self, and the way that everyone else reacted to it made it seem like it was a much bigger deal. So I would have liked to have seen more of that. And then also the other question I have is just the villain of the book is Maddie's mom, and so spoiler alert, here's the spoiler. She doesn't really have skids. Nothing's wrong with her. But when her brother and her dad died, her mom went crazy, basically, and was like, I have to save you from the world. So I have to figure out a way to put you in a bubble and protect you so that I'll never be alone again. And literature is about going to extremes, fun literature. So you take a situation where in real life most people don't have access into wealth or means that would have allowed them to do what she does. So there's that. So then you have a character in the circumstances that has access to money and funds and is able to create this fantasy of her child being severely sick and having to be the sole person to take care of her and put her in a bubble and have the filtration system and all of those, build the special rooms and all of those things. And so that's fun. But because of how close they were up until the point where she finds out, and not the reaction, because I think the reaction that she had was a valid reaction. Sorry if you keep seeing my reflection of my backyard in my glasses. The reaction was a valid one, but it just, oh gosh. I can appreciate the mom being the villain because there is no step-by-step guide that comes in the mail when you have a kid. You can buy books, but it's no fail-proof way to raise them and not screw them up. You are the culmination of your experiences and your observations of the world and the information that you take in, and you process it and you create the person you are. And then when you go forward to create new people, you take all of those things and you try to feed them into those new little people so that they can avoid some heartache and some strife and they can become better people, and you hope that you don't mess it up. And so there's just a point in the novel where once she realizes that her mom has taken so much of her life from her, where she's justifiably pissed off, she's justifiably angry, but I don't feel like there was enough correctiveness or enough attention. Like, I don't feel like you would spend your life 18 years with your mom having raised you, and even though she did so much to take away from you, she ultimately did raise a really strong person who was well educated, who made it healthy, lived, had a well provided for life, and then you throw a lot of that away for this person who you've known for 8 months of the year. And I'm not saying kids do that all the time. They do that all the time. They ignore their parents and they go crazy because of the first boy that they meet. But it just rubbed me the wrong way. And then the whole thing just really about how obsessed she was with getting back to Ollie after Ollie moved, and obsessively was willing to kind of push her away and to accept that she was pushing him away, and then she's able to track him down, and there's some real demons there and some real problems in their relationship that occur, and it doesn't feel like those are fixed. And so those are some things that really just bug me. Other than that, I felt like I wanted to see what Maddie planned for her life now. Like, not Ollie, not her mom. This is what, now that I'm out, this is what I want for my life. And so I would have liked to see like just a little nod to that, and not just like, oh, it's cute, they're in the bookstore. Oh, you know, he's going to have her now. That's sweet. Yeah. But anyway, it was a fun read. It wasn't a bad book. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. And if you want to talk more about it in the comments below, please do so. Please click the like and subscribe. But more importantly, let's talk about it. What did you think? Were there little things that Ollie did that I could have done without the bundt cake thing, guys? I don't know why bundt cakes are so funny to people. Like the whole bundt cake thing in like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and then here, I don't know why that's such a big thing, but that bothered the crap out of me. But yeah, so anyway, talk about it down below, and until next time, toodles!